But let's get straight into it and let's go into the match review. And yeah, it was a really good, fun day at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. I think how the game started wasn't the greatest. First 20 minutes, I thought, was probably West Ham's best moments in the game. I mean, it started off, didn't it, with that first chance where the Tottenham defenders were all just watching the ball. And Souček was allowed to pass it out to Bowen on the edge of the box, and Bowen just like scooted his shot a bit wide. But that could have been a lot more dangerous for us, to be fair, with Fraser Forster taking a year to get down. But I think that was in the first half, their only real chance, wasn't it?
I don't remember too many like serious opportunities that they had in the first half. I think there was that one. Bowen as well had a shot kind of that flashed across the face of goal, which Souček might have gone on the end of, but if he did get on the end of, he probably would have been offside anyway. When you look at that chance, so you compare to that to what Spurs had, I mean, we also didn't have much. Richarlison had a chance right at the end of the half, which forced a save out of Fabianski. Yeah, it was a really good pass. Didn't really sit down for Richarlison and went kind of forcing a bit far wide. You obviously had the penalty, which for some reason, I'm not really sure why, but was a definite penalty in my opinion in that first half.
Because like, I think it's Richarlison has the ball right and he hits it, and Kehrer kind of like kneels down and like hits the ball away with his hand, and it's like such a penalty. I just don't understand how they don't even look at that again.
It's madness. I think it's madness. He kind of takes a swipe at the ball as well, and he's blocking the path of a pass.
Exactly.
Richarlison's like, trying to pass it to Kane.
How can they say that's a natural position for your hand to be in? It's clearly not.
He was claiming that he was like balancing or something like that, but for me, there was an extra movement in there. If he just blocked the pass, maybe there's a case for it. But there was a clear swipe at it as well to like get the ball away. So I think it was a deliberate handball, if anything, let alone unnatural position.
Booking.
Yeah, I think it was deliberate. Like it was a deliberate action. Yeah. So I was absolutely amazed, having seen that again on the replay, that that wasn't given as a penalty. I think it was a stone wall. Maybe it would have been different. You know, the perception of the first half would have been different had we taken the lead. We did struggle to break them down. They were playing very much like a 3-5-2 kind of formation early on, very much clogging up the central areas, having Souček, Rice, and Downs kind of very much being very defensive in the middle, being very congested. Skip and Højbjerg were playing well, but they weren't able to play through the centre. Every time we had the ball, we had to go out wide to Davis and Emerson, who were playing in the wing-back positions. And we weren't really able to find any moments of quality from the wide areas. Kulusevski was well shackled. Harry Kane had a couple of moments in the first half where he tried to get some shots off, but he slipped and wasn't really involved. Richarlison was looking busy, but wasn't really showing any quality. And it looked like it was going to be one of those days where West Ham were looking to frustrate us, and we struggled to really create any opportunities. And it was one of those first halves again where West Ham didn't have much. We had them under control, but we didn't look like scoring ourselves, and that was a problem.
Yeah, and obviously we had that chance right at the end of the first half with that corner where Romero just about heads over. But at half-time, I was kind of feeling frustrated, and I was thinking, like, West Ham are not looking good, but we're not looking too much better, to be fair. It was just a really boring first half of football, to be fair, with two poor sides going at it. But when the second half came, I thought a lot changed. West Ham, I thought, just opened up for us, really. And Kulusevski looked a lot more dangerous, and you saw he came alive straight away at the beginning of that second half. He'd done a player, got the ball into Harry Kane, and Harry Kane screwed it wide where he really should have done better, Harry Kane. And then moments later, the goal comes with Højbjerg with a lovely defence-splitting ball to Ben Davis. Ben Davis squares it to Emerson, and Emerson slots it home with a really nice finish. And it was a really nice little tactical switch up there when Ben Davis and Emerson were surging through the middle of the park with Højbjerg with that nice defensive splitting pass. But we haven't seen that too often tactically, really, when Ben Davis, who was the left wing-back on the day, and Emerson Royale, they just come centrally. They were suddenly like our two strikers. They're not even like wide trying to get the crosses in the box. And I thought it was such a good goal, really, especially with that Højbjerg ball.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent team goal. I thought you have to give all the credit in the world for Højbjerg, because I think he absolutely puts on right on a plate for Ben Davies. He doesn't have to break stride. He gets it right into his path. It's weighted to perfection from Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Any more power or any less power, that goal doesn't happen. It literally weighted right on a sixpence for Ben Davies to run onto. Ben Davies, you got to give him credit. He outpaces, I think it was Kelleher. He gets on the wrong side of him. He times his run to absolute perfection as well. And then he cuts inside, plays a really nice first time pass into Emerson, and Emerson just takes it in his stride and slots it home. Brilliant finish. I have to say, I thought it was scuffed, but actually it was quite a clean finish in the end. He gets it right in the corner. Fair play to him. It was first time finish. Didn't have to think about it, and just finishes it right into the corner. And he didn't look like the most comfortable finish, but it was accomplished. You have to say that. He side foots it into the corner. And it's a good goal, and both wing backs really contributing to the attack. I have to look at the pitch again, but I'm not sure where the attacking three are at that moment. But it looks like the West Ham defence were thinking about those three when those two steal in, and it was a really well worked goal. And it needed that bit of magic from Højbjerg to open them up, because it felt like we were really struggling. Yeah, when we started the first half, Kulusevski started with a purpose. He was actually pressing a lot higher, and he won the ball back, I think, twice in the opening 5 minutes, which created opportunities. But when it came from just in general open play, trying to open up West Ham, we were struggling a bit, even in that second half. But that moment of pretty much the first moment of quality in the game where we really opened up West Ham was provided by Højbjerg. And it's something that he has in him, which doesn't get enough credit, to be honest. He's done it a few times this season, those kind of passes which get us in those situations. And he did it again, and it was a really good timing. And I think from then on, we just had control of the game. I know Bowen had a chance
it was right
just after.
Goal, yeah.
They got a bit of luck with it. A kind of flick on by Antonio, kind of races through.
Yeah, I think Romero needs to be more aware there at that point, because Romero gets beaten by the ball. I think he got caught. With his mind elsewhere for a second, and obviously Bowen beats him to the ball, takes it past him, and Fraser Forster does really well to block it, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a good save. I think Romero is caught on his heels a bit. I did think it was a bit of luck from West Ham to find its way through to Bowen. I don't know if it was a good flick on by Antonio, but it was just kind of one of those moments where they looked like there was no danger, but then in a second Bowen just used his pace and he's through on goal. Obviously, Romero's putting him in under pressure. But it was a good save by Forster. One you expect him to make, but a good save nonetheless. He had to make it. But West Ham didn't really look like threatening to score or equalise, apart from that one moment in the second half. Spurs were pretty much on top. And it took until Sonny came on to kill the game, and it was clinical, and that's exactly what he can do off the bench. He comes on, he exploits the space, he waits for Harry Kane to get on the ball. He's fighting with Ogbonna for that second ball. He wins it. He plays Son for on goal. Brilliant first touch from him, and a clinical finish. And I actually thought, I was looking at that goal again, I was thinking, why did Fabianski dive the wrong way for that one? Because you're thinking in that position, you would expect Son to go on that far post. But if you remember rightly, last season, I'm pretty sure Fabianski was in goal. If you go last season, there was a very similar situation right at the end of the game. Son goes through on goal, and he opens his body up, and he fakes to go into the far corner, and he whips it into the near post, and he seals the game 3-1. So maybe Fabianski had that in his mind, that if Son's going to be through on goal again in that kind of position, he'll go near post. So Fabianski went near post this time, and Son Dubston went the other way. So I think that was maybe something interesting people maybe didn't pick up on.
Yeah, I think you're right there. But in terms of Harry Kane and his challenge with Ogbonna, I mean, Harry Kane was being physical up against the West Ham defenders all day long, but that was the one time where it actually paid off for us. He was having a tussle with Ogbonna. Ogbonna was forced to make a mistake. Kane latched onto it, and it was a lovely ball into Sonny, and Sonny obviously did the rest. I thought Harry Kane had a good game, to be fair, really trying to be physical. A lot of the times where he was winning the balls in those areas, it wasn't coming off for us for one reason or another, but he was giving the West Ham defenders a lot of things to think about. He was coming deep to really knit the play together and to put his imprint on the game. But the one player I want to talk about is Cuti Romero yesterday. And Cuti Romero really seemed like he was back to his best yesterday. Countless amounts of breaking the line passes, ridiculous anticipation, perfectly timed tackles with aggression, composure in the build-up. I mean, what a performance Romero put in yesterday.
Yeah, he looked like he was at his best again, his most confident. I think he's kind of had a very up and down season for Tottenham. He's had some great displays, but also some indifferent ones, especially just after the World Cup and also a bit before the World Cup as well. He was, when he was playing, he wasn't kind of, I don't know, he just didn't seem himself. He seemed to be rushing, like obviously he likes to rush into tackles, but he seemed to be mistiming them a lot. He seemed to be giving the ball away when he was on the ball. He didn't seem confident when people were coming up against him. But this Romero that we saw yesterday was Romero at his very, very best, anticipating challenges, being really confident on the ball, not rushing passes, waiting for the right pass, putting in those real crunching challenges to get the crowd going, get the team going, put us on the front foot as well. And get those customary long runs forward as well. He was definitely on that as well, and not scared to leave his back line and trying to help out at the attack. He was absolutely at his best yesterday, it's a bit, obviously it's great with Romero that those tackles stand out, but it also is a bit frustrating when you think about it, because like Romero, you see him often, like he does those real crunching proactive tackles that get the crowd going, that get Tottenham on the front foot. But then you think as well, he's the only defender in our back three that does that. He's the only defender who's proactive, looking, anticipating those challenges. And you look at Dyer, Longley, and even Davis to a large extent. They're always in their defending, in their tackles, just reacting. They're always waiting to see what the attacker does before they decide what to do. Look for case in point, Eric Dyer against Leicester, backing off, waiting for the attacker to do something before he can react. Whereas Romero, he's the one always proactive. And sometimes it does get him in trouble being proactive, because sometimes he's the one doing something first, and then an attacker can adjust to that and get his body in the way and outmuscle him or do something different. But more often than not, he'll come away with the ball and he'll win the ball because of his quality, because of his anticipation skills. And I thought Antonio yesterday absolutely did not have a sniff. Obviously Dyer, I thought, and Longley and Davis all played well, but when it comes to being proactive and anticipating where the pass is going to go and putting those big, crunching, strong challenges in, Romero is in a league of his own in our team, completely.
No, he is. He's literally, we've said it plenty of times before, like he is the only proactive player, more or less, that we have in the team, especially from a defensive standpoint. And those tackles he was putting in on Jarrod Bowen, on Souček, on Antonio, I mean, he was not giving them a moment to think about what they can do next. He was flying in there with his anticipated challenge. And I love those dinks he does over the midfield into Harry Kane, where it really sets us off. And he did that a number of times where maybe the move kind of broke down, whether it be from Harry Kane or from a different player. But it was just such a good performance in there from Cuti Romero. A few other standout performers. First of all, let's talk about Ollie Skipp, because he got that booking so early on, showed such maturity to play the way he did for the remainder of the game, where I think he got booked on like the 20th minute or something like that. Ninth minute. Well, even more so. I mean, unbelievable from Ollie Skipp, and we've all given him his criticism this season, where he hasn't been up to scratch. He hasn't been as good as maybe he was under the latter Nuno stages and the early Conte stages, but he seems to be getting back to his best now. That cameo at Preston, that performance in the San Siro, and now he's topped it off with the lot with this performance against West Ham. I mean, we're really seeing Ollie Skipp getting back to his best now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. As we said, we was getting to the stage after he'd just come back from injury. When he did get on the pitch, he didn't look at as sharp as his best. It was even getting to a stage where we had Bentancur, Højbjerg, Basuma and Sarr. You're like, Sarr was ahead of him even, and you're thinking, does Skipp just need a loan deal just to get back playing again? But maybe, obviously, you never want to see an injury or anything, but these injuries to Bentancur and Basuma have given him that role in the team again, and clearly he's looked at this opportunity to say, look, I'm going to get back to those levels I was before I had this bad injury, and I believe in my quality, and I think we all do. We all believe how good of a player he is, and yesterday again showed. You remember, he's still young. He's still 22. He's still really, really young, and he plays with such maturity.
21, I think. Yeah.
Is he 21? Whatever. Yeah, I think he is 21, and he plays with such maturity. You forget how young he is. You think he's been around for ages, but he's still only 21. He's He's got so much football ahead of him. And yesterday, I thought he played really well with Højbjerg. I thought he kept Rice. Rice had such little influence in the game yesterday, and a large part was down to how well Ollie Skip was.
He's still in Skippy's back pocket, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where he is. And, you know, Arsenal spend 100 million on Rice to be dominated by Ollie Skip. I thought it was an unbelievable performance from him yesterday.
I think he competed and won the most ground duels out of anyone yesterday. He competed for 10 and won 7 of them, and that shows how combative he was. I thought on the ball as well, he was neat and tidy, not so progressive, but played a couple of long passes, accurate long passes. But
a few nice drives down the centre as well.
Yeah, he was decent. He was confident, and that definitely was a good follow-on from his performance in the San Siro, where definitely it was a return to form for him. I'm very happy for him because those struggles must have really got to him, especially because a lot of it was down to injury, and then because he hasn't got back in the team, he's found it hard to get rhythm. But I'm very happy that he's back playing again and playing well. And it was I wouldn't say it was a big call, but it was a call to make, to pick him over Sarr, because I thought Sarr was so exceptional in the San Siro. I thought it warranted another performance, but maybe the fact that Skip's been here longer, he's more used to the Premier League, all these different things, maybe that gave him the nod, and I think he repaid it with a good performance.
Also, on that Sarr performance in the San Siro, yes, he was unbelievable, but because he was so good that day, the Skippy performance in the San Siro went a bit under the radar, didn't it? Because Skippy was also brilliant that day. And on that performance alone, still warranted a start, even though Sarr was obviously better on the day. But both of them, from those performances, deserved to start in the next game, and obviously they both couldn't.
Yeah, I agree. I think Skip, it was overshadowed by Sarr because Sarr was just that tiny bit much better than Skip on the day. But Skip definitely was a return to form for him as well, and he every bit as much as Sarr looked at home on that pitch and looked like he was at that level. So they both deserved plaudits and probably both deserved starts in this game. With Højbjerg coming back, he was always going to come back in the team, and it was a big call. And they made the call, and I think whether it was right or wrong, I reckon he could have played Sarr as well. He probably could also play well. Yeah. I'm just happy that we have Sarr and Skip both available and both being options, and with Bentancur out and Basuma out for the long term, it's going to be needed for them to provide an option for the team. And I'm just so happy that, you know, all those worries, I'm not saying they're completely gone because Bentancur is so vital to this team, but if Sarr and Skip can play to the levels they've been showing recently, then the problems aren't going to be half as bad as we thought they might be.
Yeah. Let's talk about the wing backs now. Let's start off with the man of the moment, Emerson Royal. In my opinion, I thought he should have got man of the match yesterday. I'm not sure why Ben Davies got man of the match. I thought there were maybe 3 players better than Ben Davies on the pitch yesterday in terms of Emerson, Skip, and Cuti Romero. But Emerson was absolutely brilliant. 65 touches, 95% passing accuracy, 1 goal, 5 clearances, 7 tackles. I mean, the shift he put in for the team yesterday was absolutely exceptional. And we're starting to see this week in, week out from Emerson Royal. Like you said before, a really nice finish into the far corner. And, you know, the effort he was putting in for the team, like in the latter stages of the game with those sliding tackles, which were absolutely pinpoint. And he was like doing like 2 or 3 in a row at one stage. And it was such a great performance from Emerson Royal. I think you're still having a few reservations about him going forward, or quite a few reservations about him going forward. But he was the one sprinting forward with Ben Davies to score that goal yesterday. And it's mad to me to think, like, when you're looking at 2 of the most least creative players on the pitch in Ben Davies and Emerson Royal, and they were the ones combining for the goal. But Emerson, I mean, he is really batting away those negative comments about him throughout the season, throughout last season, and he's performing admirably well. Yeah,
he's answering the critics. You have to say that. He's been under a lot of criticism for a lot of the season, rightly or wrongly. I think ever since he's come to the club, to be honest, about maybe his clumsy style of play, his lack of ability in the final third, all these different things. But recently, I think defensively he's always been a strong player, and I think ever since he's come to the club, he's been quite solid defensively. And I think he's continued that and probably even got better, to be honest. He's probably getting even better defensively even recently. But what is really improving is his ability on the ball, his build-up play, his passing. His final third actions are still... I know he scored a nice goal and it was a good run as well. I don't expect him to be scoring goals like that on a consistent basis, in my opinion. In my opinion, he can get into those positions a lot, and I don't think he's going to be finishing like that more often than not. I think it was a good finish, but credit where credit's due. It was a really composed finish from him. He found the corner, he took it early as well before the keeper got settled, and it was a good finish. So I'm not taking anything away from it, but I do think there are still reservations when it comes to how effective he can be in the final third. But I want to just say something interesting. What I found about Emerson's performance. A lot of people are talking about him yesterday, about how he came centrally into the midfield a lot of the time. Can you bring up the phone? Is that possible? Can we bring up the phone? Yeah, it's working. So if you look at Emerson's average position, obviously he's mostly in his own half, and he's not so wide. He's a bit central, like quite close to Skip. But then you look at his heat map, like when he's in the defensive third, he's quite wide. But then when he goes into the attacking third here, he goes very central. And I think what they're trying to do anyway is that when he does get into the attacking third, and if you look at Kulu as well, when he's in the attacking third, he's a lot wider than Emerson. Emerson is a bit more central. So I think what they're doing is, when they get into the attacking third, maybe have Emerson a bit centrally and then Kulu out wide. So Emerson's not in a position where he has to keep crossing the ball, because that's not where his strength is. His strength is doing little passes, short passes in and around where players are near him. So I think that he's improving his progressive passing as well. He's doing a lot better finding teammates when he's on the ball in build-up now, which is a big improvement in my opinion. So we're getting Kulu out wider because he's a much better crosser, although his crossing was a bit off yesterday. He's a much better crosser, so you get him in the crossing positions. You get Emerson inside where he's more comfortable, and I think that's maybe leading to much better performances from Emerson, and also not maybe highlighting his weaknesses as much as they were when he's always out wide in the widest position and he's having to put crosses and things like that. So I think that's a good tactical tweak from the coaching staff to do that for Emerson. Maybe the only problem I have with that is I feel like when Kulu is too far out wide, he's a bit less involved, and I think he's more comfortable inside and getting involved in the play, and rather than being stuck out wide and having to beat players and whip crossing the box. I think he likes little passes on the edge of the area and things like that, and shots. So there's a bit of give and take there. Maybe if Porro gets in, Kulu can go back more centrally and Porro goes out wide. But at the moment, I think it's working for the players that we have. I think it's a good tactical tweak.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it's giving us an extra option in midfield when we are attacking. And I think it's getting the best out of Emerson. You can't lie. It is getting the best out of Emerson. I mean, what you say about Kulu, I mean, is this the reason why we're seeing Kulu a bit not at his best at the moment, do you reckon?
I think it's part of the reason. I think because I think a lot of the time he's very far out wide, and he's coming from deep as well, and he's looking to a lot of the time beat players. And Kulusevski he can be quite good in one-on-one situations, but he needs to be close to the players. I feel like when he's running with a lot of space ahead of him, and he's like looking just to burst past the player for pure pace, I think he struggles a bit with that. I think he likes to be close to players so he can use his strength to get past them, and use his physicality to do it. So I think he likes it a lot more in the central areas where players are close to him, and even defenders are close to him, because then if they try and bump him off, he's got the strength to hold them off, and then he can either go for a shot or go for a little pass into the penalty area and link up with Kane and Son. So I do think it's taking a bit away from him, although I did think he was a lot better in the second half yesterday, more to do with his pressing than I did think to do with his positioning, but I did think he was a lot better in the second half. But I do think it's maybe a bit of the reason why maybe he's not been quite at his best as of late. Yeah.
I think as well, obviously, coming back from injury has something to do with it as well. But in terms of the Richarlison and Sonny debate, I mean, what do you make out of it now? Because like Richarlison, every time he plays, whether it's off the bench or starting a game, albeit he hasn't started too many games, he's just not impacting things too much. And yesterday in the first half, he saw a lot of the ball where some dangerous moments could have occurred, but heavy touches, loose passes. Obviously, he should have won a penalty yesterday where he had it into Kehra's hand. But, I mean, he just kind of always leaves you wanting a bit more, Richarlison.
For sure. I think quality on the ball wise, he was lacking. You got to remember, it's very difficult for him when I think throughout the whole season, this was his 5th start, I think, in the Premier League. Only his 2nd start from on the left, on his one of his more favoured positions on the left-hand side. And he's only played 90 minutes, I think, twice, I think, this season. So, you know, coming from a team like Everton where you're the star, you're starting week in, week out, you know, you got to find your rhythm and you got to give him consistent game time. And it's difficult now, and Son came off the bench to score, which means it's even less likely he's going to get consistent game time. But I do feel for him a bit that he had that, like, you know, when you're a player like Richarlison, you have to get some sort of rhythm. But he also does need to show a bit more quality on the ball if he's going to stay in the team. I think I think yesterday he obviously had that chance right at the end of the half where he had a shot on goal when it was saved by the keeper, but I did think he wasn't so involved when we were on the ball. Like he wasn't really showing enough quality to get shots off, take it past people, things like that. But what he does bring is his work off the ball, and like he had 8 ground duels yesterday, which is comparable to some of the centre mids yesterday. So what he does do is he harasses the defenders. He gets in their face. He makes things awkward for them, makes things difficult for them. He tires them out. And I think Stellini even hinted at it after the game, saying that you know, Richarlison was giving the defenders a tough time physically. You know, sometimes he's backing into them, sometimes he's running in behind, he's stretching them a bit. You know, he's making them work physically, and then that's primed for when Son comes on and the game gets stretched, he can make the difference, he can make the killer blow, and that's exactly what happened. So, yes, I want more from Richarlison on the ball, but you got to also remember what he does bring, and you know, a lot. I wouldn't say Son scored because of Richarlison, but I did think he contributed to making it difficult for Kelleher. Then all of a sudden, Son comes on with his searing pace into the space, and Kelleher can lose his concentration for 1 second because he's dealing with the physicality of Richarlison all day, and then Son can make the difference.
Is that like a good tactic then, you think? Maybe 100%. To start Richarlison, tire them out a bit, wear them down, you know, back into them physically and all that kind of stuff, and then Son to come on and be that live wire and just finish them off? Because that's exactly what happened yesterday, right? As soon as Son came on, you saw that movement in behind from Sonny. Sonny looked electric when he came on yesterday, and I thought it was a really good display. And
happened against Leicester as well. Yeah. Richarlison started.
Yeah.
And then he came on.
Exactly, spot on. So why have we not used that tactic a bit more this season? We've seen it twice this season. Son has been poor for the most part of the season, for the majority of the season, and Richarlison hasn't really got a look in. Why have we not used that tactic a bit more often than we have?
I agree. I've been calling for us to use it a lot more, just for rotation purposes, just so you can use your squad. So you know, you buy and play for 60 million. They should be having, you know, we've played 24 games now. Sorry, we're in I think 24 games. How many starts has he had in the Premier League? But he's had a few.
He had because Kulu was injured.
Right. He had a few instead of Kulu. But how many starts has he had on the up front or on the left? He's had, I think, Leicester. I think he started against Leeds as well when we beat them 4-3, and then this one. So he's had 3 starts in his favoured position.
4-3 was on the right though, wasn't it?
I think he was on the left. I think Son didn't. I think Son might have not played that good because he had his. Oh,
I see.
He had his face injury, didn't he? So I think Kulu started on the left that day. So I think this was his 3rd start from the left-hand side, and I think he should be having a lot more. Considering how many games we've played, he should be playing a lot more in those kind of positions. And even as a tactic, to tire out the opposition and have players like Son to come on, 100% we should be using it a lot more, 100%. And I think I don't know if it's stubbornness or if it's respect for how good Son has been. When you got the golden boot of last season, you just want to, and you know that if he's in on goal, he's going to make the killer blow and make the difference. I'm guessing they just want to keep playing him. You heard what Stellini said yesterday after the game. He said Sonny's one of those players that he only didn't play because he was he wasn't physically 100% yesterday, so he was on the bench. But so he said if Son's one of those players where if he was 100% fit, you play him. That's what he said. So from my point of view, that's kind of a bit of a stubborn approach. I guess you could say the same with Kane though. And Kane, we do play him 100%.
Kane's producing week in, week out every week.
I guess that's the difference. I think it's a bit of a stubbornness. I think we need to be rotating more in those positions. And I think we need to be giving these players more of an opportunity to help them and to help the players coming in and to help the team. So I agree. It's a tactic that has worked twice. So I think we need to be using it more.
What about the Danjuma situation now? Because, I mean, do you think that Danjuma potentially deserves a start against Chelsea? Would you start him?
Danjuma. I mean, I don't think he's anything. Don't think he's done anything to deserve a
not
start
that,
per
anything
se.
that he's done, but maybe stuff that maybe Sonny and Richarlison have done and not impacted things maybe enough.
Potentially. I think there's a case for it. You could say that Richarlison hasn't really been doing it when he started. Sonny definitely hasn't been doing it when he started. So is it time to give Danjuma a go? But then again, is it harsh to just give Richarlison one start and then drop him immediately? I think we were going to go back to Son immediately. To be honest, I think Stellini said if Son's 100%, he'll play. He played 20 minutes yesterday, or whatever, half an hour was yesterday. He's going to have a week break. He's going to be 100% next week. So I think Son comes straight back in. But I do feel for Danjuma because Mora came on ahead of him yesterday. Yeah. Kane played the 90 minutes. When we know Danjuma he could even play Danjuma up front, or even put Son up front and Danjuma on the left. So I think it's unfortunate he didn't get any game time, but hopefully that will come. We still got, hopefully anyway, we've got a lot of games left. We've still got 15 games in the Premier League. Hopefully we get through the FA Cup and Champions League as well. So hopefully there's a lot of football left to be played, and a lot of opportunities will come for him. But it was unfortunate yesterday that he wasn't able to get on the pitch.
Yeah, and what I was saying before about the wing-backs, I mean, Ben Davies yesterday got man the match on the game. Obviously a really nice run, square ball to Emerson to set us on our way on our first goal yesterday. I thought with Ben Davies, it was probably the most accomplished left wing-back performance we've seen over the past couple of weeks, where you're looking at Perisic's bad performances, Sessegnon's bad performances as well before he got injured. I thought he took a while to get into the game yesterday, but once he did, I actually thought he played fairly well. But obviously we need better quality still there at the left wing-back. Would you start Ben Davies there next game?
Would I start Ben Davies there next game?
I think he's put in a better performance there than maybe Perisic has the last couple of weeks.
Potentially. Defensively, he was solid. I actually think Perisic, for example, out of Milan, I don't think he was any worse than what Davies showed yesterday. Davies had 5 crosses, none of them completed yesterday. I thought his crossing was atrocious, in my opinion, when he got forward. He did on the few times he did get forward. I thought his quality was lacking.
Standard Ben Davies like 7 out of 10.
He was okay. Like I think he was solid. He was maybe a bit better than average, especially with he obviously made that great one and created the chance for Emerson, so he obviously deserves a lot of credit for that. I think his on the ball build up play is usually quite strong, and it was again. I don't obviously. When you got Ben Davies at wing back, you don't expect him to take anyone on. You don't expect him to be causing constant headaches for their right wing back, who was Soufal. In a battle like that, you just expect him to make sure that Soufal's not getting the better of him defensively, and make sure maybe from a positional kind of point of view and making runs point of view, he makes things awkward for Soufal. But you don't expect him physically to dominate. You don't expect too much quality in the final third, and you just basically expect him, for example. Like if we had Davies at left wing back, maybe when we played City away and we're 2-0 up, we probably don't concede those 3 goals. Whereas Perisic was a calamity that game defensively. But when it comes to in the final third, I'd much rather Perisic there all day long. So next week, to be fair, actually, Perisic had a really bad cameo when he came on as well. I thought he was terrible for those last 10 minutes or whatever it was when he came on. Could have been sent off. I thought it was really bad. But you got to remember, he's also 33. He's played 2 games in a week. It's probably too much for to ask him for more. But then he's going to have a week break now. So I wasn't that impressed with Longley yesterday. So I envisage actually he's going to put Davies back at left centre back and bring Perisic in.
Thing is with Davies, right? Like, he was so solid defensively yesterday, and it's something that we miss when Perisic is on the pitch, and Perisic just gets beaten way too easily of late anyway. And I don't know, I was kind of feeling more comfortable with Ben Davies' performance yesterday than I have been for Perisic for quite some time now.
I think Perisic runs into trouble when he's playing too much, and because physically, as we said, he's getting old. He's old, not getting old. As a football player, especially as a wing back, he's 34. So it's difficult for him. I think that's you can't play. Look, we've only got one wing back, and you can't play Perisic every game. Yes, defensively, he's not the best wing back for sure. You can say that again. He's definitely not good. But when he's fully fit and when he's at 100%. he can be like not a liability, as I can say. Basically, that's like the best he can be. He can never be like amazing defensively, but what he can be is basically not be a complete liability like he was against City. City, no coincidence, was a midweek game. There's no coincidence there. When you're playing him too often, he can get overawed. But what happened when we played? He gets a week break and we play Man City. He was good. Like he played a good game. He out in Milan, he was. I thought he was fairly solid. So he can put in good games, and I just think I would rather a fully fit Perisic at 100% than try and rely on Davis. I would rather put Davis in only when we need to, but I don't think we need to next week. I think we needed to yesterday because Perisic had played 2 games in a week, and I don't think he could have played a third. But yeah, I think next week we can put Perisic back in, and we've got Emerson on the other side.
True, but he'll come up against very tricky attackers next week in the Chelsea front line, whether it be Mudryk or Madueke or whoever it may be. But let's finish off with Stellini, and we'll just have a quick outlook of the season. 3 games now, 3 wins for Christian Stellini. I don't think he's conceded a goal either, has he? What was the first? No, against Marseille. Marseille did. But in the Premier League, 1-0 against Man City, 2-0 against West Ham, 2 big games. When he took over the reins for Inter, for Conte as well, it was 3 wins out of 3. What do you make out of this Stellini thing? I know that Conte had a lot more say in the game, and I thought it was fairly funny what he was saying in the press conference after the game, Stellini, about Conte was just texting him throughout the game, and any decision that they made, they ran past Conte, and he was sometimes like, yeah, do it, or wait. So Conte definitely had a big kind of say in the game yesterday. But what is it about Christian Stellini that gets the best out of these players?
I don't know if it is. I mean, look, I think I don't think it's like when I look at yesterday's performance, I think we played well, but I remember I called in the fans yesterday, and I stand by it. I don't think yesterday's performance was much different to what we've seen under Conte when we've played him. Just a lot of times under Conte this season, we've played very similar, but what's happened is we've had massive errors which have cost us, and usually it's the first goal, and then all of a sudden that changes the game. We can see if Bowen scores in the first minute, trust me, it's a different game yesterday than it is. And how many times have we done this? Liverpool at home, Newcastle at home, Villa at home, slow starts where we're not playing well, and then we up our game in the second half. But what was the difference in yesterday and those games is Dyer shoulders it to Salah, who runs through and scores. Lloris comes flying out of his goal and gives the goal to Wilson. Lloris drops a Douglas Luiz long shot and gives it to Buendia. Even the Arsenal game, Lloris drops into his own net after a cross from Saka, and that goes 1-0, and then we improve in the second half. So it's a very similar pattern to what we've seen in those games. Just yesterday we didn't drop any clangers, and that's the big difference. That's how much of a difference it can be when you keep things solid. You don't drop major defensive errors. You keep that clean sheet, and then your quality can make it pay in the second half. That's what happened yesterday, and that's what could happen. That might have happened in a lot of those games if we didn't drop those clangers. But unfortunately, we did drop those clangers, and then that's cost us.
Yeah, no, I think that's, in terms of analysis, absolutely spot on, because I've been saying it for so long now. Like, if we brought in even just one competent defender in the summer transfer window, or even the January transfer window, you would see like literally half these clangers, and we'd be right up there, fighting for even the biggest honours this year. I genuinely believe that. So it's such a shame that we didn't bring in that defender, or even 1 or 2 defenders in the summer, because this season could have a whole different outlook on it. But in terms of the outlook of the season, there's been so much doom and gloom around this fan base or surrounding this football club all season. And when you're actually looking at it, right, in the top 4 now, above Newcastle, who, by the way, everyone's been saying has been unbelievable this season, apart from this run that they've been on recently. Everyone's been giving them all the plaudits, and we're above them now in the league. We're into the last 16 of the Champions League, 1-0 down, but it's definitely a tie that we can overturn, that's for sure. Sheffield United, all we need to do is beat Sheffield United and get into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. I mean, it's not all so bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, look, Tottenham, when we finished 4th last season, you want progression, right? You want Spurs to move up a level. And we all thought maybe a challenge for the title or something, or it could be that. But right now, we're in the top four. We've got a good chance in both, definitely the FA Cup to go quite far. Champions League, got to see what happens in the second leg, but we've got a good chance of getting to the quarterfinals as well. If we can maintain fourth position and either win a cup or even go far in both cups, I mean, considering we played one game a week last season, some would argue that is progression. That is something that because you go from top four with pretty much playing one game a week and going out early in all the cups to top four, and either you win one or you go really deep into some of the other. I think the important thing is making sure we get the balance right between our league position and the cups. If we need to make sure we're either getting to a semi-final or a final or winning one of those competitions to really help mark proper progression. Because if we go out early in both of them, then and still we're only getting top four, then I think that's not real progression. But if we can win a cup and stay in top four, that would be a massive progression in my opinion. Or if we can go to a final and stay in top four as well, that's shown signs of progression. So then all of a sudden it wouldn't be too bad. And I think maybe the job Conte is doing will be looked at a different light. I guess you could always point to the amount of goals conceded, style of play, the problems that we have, and say what kind of, and judge Conte on that. But you've got to say that at the moment, the way the season is shaping, there's a lot to play for. We're in a good position. If I said at the beginning of the season in February we'll be top four, we'll still be in the FA Cup and we'll still be in the Champions League, you probably would have taken it. So there's still a lot to play for. It could still be a really, really great season. And I think that there has been a lot of negativity, a lot to do with how we play. But I think we just got to be along for the ride and see where it can take us, because I think we can still have a very, very good season. And even with injuries and all these kind of things, if we can dig deep and just find that defensive consistency, I think we can still have a very good season. And even if Conte doesn't win a trophy with us this season and gets top four again, like that, considering where we were once Pochettino left, like to get back-to-back top four would be pretty good.
It would be. It'll be a bit of a kick in the teeth if Conte's here for 1.5 seasons and still hasn't won a trophy, because it's definitely within our capabilities this season. When you're looking at the way the FA Cup is shaping up, I mean, we got to go far in this tournament. We have to. We can't have any shit shows like we have done in the last couple of years in the FA Cup and go out to lower league opposition. But look, I think when you're looking at the outlook of the season, I'm looking at it a lot more positive now than maybe I did a month ago. I kind of maybe let the negativity overtake me a little bit. But I think right now, when you look at it objectively, when you're looking at it and seeing where we are and where we can be this season, I think it's positive in my opinion.
Well, the problem is because the league table's quite tight, a couple of bad results and all of a sudden you find yourself in 6th or 7th and you're thinking, oh God, where are we going? And then a couple of wins, we're in the top 4 and you're like, okay, things aren't looking so bad. So
you look at
because
fixtures,
it's volatile, right? Yeah, the fixtures is positive, because if you actually analyse everyone's fixtures from now to the end of the season, we've already played the hardest out of everyone.
City twice, Arsenal twice.
Yeah, we've played statistically the hardest teams apart from Palace from now since the start of the season, and statistically we have only apart from Palace as well, we have the easiest games to play. So I mean, technically the fixture list is falling in our favour if we can go on a good run now. After Chelsea we have even Chelsea you could argue is a good fixture, but after Chelsea we have a very appetising,
which is a hard game as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess with the teams in the bottom half getting new managers, you could say they're all difficult games. But, we definitely have a run of games where you're thinking we could definitely get a lot of points from. So we just got to hopefully start using the squad. People are stepping up now, which maybe you didn't expect. And that's really, really positive. And maybe we can still have a very good second half of the season and see where you can take us.
Yeah, and over the next 4 weeks, you've got teams all in and around us facing each other. I mean, Newcastle just in their 4 games, they play Man City away and Manchester United at home. So that's obviously points that we can make up against maybe the teams above us, or set some distance between us and Newcastle as well. So look, I think Spurs fans should be positive now. We should all stick together and we should support this team as much as we can from now to the end of the season. Support the manager, support the staff, support everyone, because we can do something this season. We really can. And it didn't feel like that maybe a month ago. But when you're looking at things now, I know we got battered to
Leicester. I didn't even feel like a week ago.
Yeah, but even coming out of that Leicester game, yeah, it was very depressing. But still, you look at the table, even after a 4-1 defeat like that, everyone around us dropped points as well. And you're looking at it being like, look, we're still in this. Even if it was such a terrible result. I mean, I took it back to last season, right, when we beat Man City and lost to Burnley. It was exactly the same feeling. I know it wasn't as much of a battering at Burnley as it was at Leicester, but ultimately it was the same feeling, right? And we went on a massive run after that. The fixtures fell in our favour. And I'm thinking it's the same thing now. And if we can just go on that run now, we put on ourselves in a really good place for the last few games of the season, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, the crucial thing is just make sure our defensive stability isn't up and down all the time. You know, conceding 2 goals, keeping a clean sheet. Recently, it's definitely, I think I saw another clean sheet yesterday, so I think that's 6 clean sheets in 8 or something. But we can't just keep doing that and then going away Leicester and concede. We can't keep doing that. We need to find some sort of base and a solidity. Even if it means the football isn't pretty, we just got to make sure we're not conceding goals, because at the moment that's been costing us way too much recently. But if we can do that, if we can get back to that solidity we had last season and the points we've shown, recently, then we can with the 4 players we have, we can very, very much be in for a good season, 100%. But it's all about if we can just keep that consistency.
Yeah, the one team going under the radar a bit at the moment is Liverpool, because they got 2 games in hand on us, and if they do win those, I think they go within 1 point of us. That's going to be the big battle, I think, in my opinion. I think Liverpool potentially finish above Newcastle this season. Whether they finish above us remains to be seen, but we'll see about that. But look, that's our match review for the game against West Ham. A nice, long one for you guys to get your teeth into.